What if Skarmory was in Gen 1 OU? Now, before Corviknight showed around, this guy used to be the premier Steel and Flying type. He would be in almost every single OU metagame. He was tanky. He, set entry hazards up. And even in Gen 2, when he didn't have, Roost or, a good Steel move, he didn't even have, Stealth Rocks, he was still pretty good. In fact, in the earlier generations, because of the no physical special split, he was able to take every single physical attack neutrally at worst. He only had to worry about fire and electric moves. And in Gen 1, there's even less of that, because there's not really any fire types. So you only have to worry about electric. But while that's the case, electric types are a lot better here. Or at the very least, the two that you are going to see are really fast and crit a lot. Not only that, but also unlike other gens, you are missing some very, very important tools. For one, you're missing spikes, which is sort of almost always been the main thing Skarmory's been associated with. You don't have Roost, but you haven't had a Roost for you didn't even have it in the first 2 generations, but you were sort of fine there. It's not the biggest deal. But one thing that Skarmory doesn't have here, that it usually has in every generation, is leftovers. Leftovers is a huge part in keeping Skarmory's longevity, just getting the extra bit of health every turn. If you don't have that, are you even that good of a tank? And with the base 70 special, can you even take on, the special attackers of Generation 1 overuse? Only one way to find out. Now, no spikes, that's, a huge bummer. But when someone first suggested this to me, I thought to myself, okay, there's no spikes, but Skarmory does have Swords Dance, so I guess that's gonna be, its main role, in Generation 1. It's gonna be, very unique, because, Skarmory usually doesn't really, run that. But then, I see this moveset, and I was just genuinely shocked. He does not have anything, really. He has Swift, which is a move. He doesn't have Body Slam, he doesn't have Hyper Beam, so his only real attack is Drill Peck, which has a lot of power points, so I guess if you were to be stuck with one move, that'd be fine, but yeah, I did not see this coming. I guess you have Sand Attack, with how bulky you are, and with how good, or not good, but just how brutal evasion moves are in Gen 1. You could be really annoying with that, but it's obviously not that good. So that means the only things you're left with is agility. If you get paralyzed and you want to get rid of that speed debuff, or you want to outspeed everything, especially Cloister, since you have a speed type of Cloister, that's something. And then you have Rest. This is gonna be your main form of recovery. You don't really have you have no other ways to recover or other than Rest. So yeah, it's you're glad you have it. It's good. And because there's literally nothing else, your last move has got to be Toxic. If this isn't any generation, Toxic will be pretty good. But not only is it 85, accuracy this gen, which I do think is kind of weird that Toxic has 85, but Thunder Wave is 100% accurate. I can't be the only one that thinks that's a little unfair. But also, Toxic is just not that good in Gen 1. If you switch out, it just turns to regular poison. And also there's the thing that they have poison and not any of the other statuses. Paralysis, sleep, or especially freeze. But you don't have any other ways to use it. But to be honest, I would actually argue that maybe Skarmory would want to use it anyways. You probably ask yourself why. But what I'm thinking to myself is, Skarmory's probably gonna have to rest a lot. And because of that, I think you're going to want at least some sort of chip damage. So Toxic can help you there. You poison something, then you try to rest it off. While, you try to find a good opening to, go for a Drill Peck or an Agility. So, it's not the worst thing. But as you can probably see here, as you can probably see here, Skarmory doesn't really look like the best Pokemon either. However, I do think looks can be deceiving. These base stats and that move pool might look like it would be sort of underwhelming. However, I think you're not really looking at, Skarmory's full potential, you see. Because Skarmory is almost always used as a defensive pivot. And I think about especially Generation 3, where Skarmblitz is everywhere. With Skarmory's high defense and Blitz's high special defense, it's able to, like take on almost anything. However, that doesn't work entirely well in Generation 1 because of Zapdos. Even if, like, Chansey can take the Thunderbolt, it gets hurt pretty hard by Drill Peck. But that's why I think in Generation 1, if he was in Overuse, Gen 1 Overuse, you would see a certain type of team. You know how there's like the big three, Tauros, Snorlax, and Chansey? I think with Skarmory's inclusion, there would be something like that, but for defensive Pokemon. So I think with Skarmory, you would see it would be incredibly popular on teams that include Chansey, which every team's going to include Chansey anyways, but also Rhydon. Yeah. I think these three work so well together defensively. Chansey can take almost every single special move. If there's an electric type, Rhydon can eat it easily. And then Skarmory has the incredibly high defense to help against anything that can threaten Chansey. But also, with that steel typing, it can also tank at least 1 or 2 psychics as well. So with these three, you can pretty much, like pivot into anything, and you can give yourself every opening you need. Which, I think that's really interesting. You have both Rhydon and Chansey, but you can't really do that in Generation 1. Especially with how many mix attackers there are, like, Tauros and Zapdos again. But Skarmory can help with that. Like, Rhydon is an incredibly strong Pokemon, has high defense, so obviously you like to use them a lot. But it also kind of sucks because, he's also really good as a late game cleaner if most of the team's paralyzed. But, it's kind of, sometimes you kind of have to use your Rhydon to, take some hits, and it can take some damage beforehand. But that's where Skarmory comes in. Like, let's say, like, you get a really unfortunate crit, or let's say, like, they guess correctly. You switch into Rhydon, then they go for, like, an Earthquake or Blizzard from Tauros. You switch into Skarmory, where you can also take that hit pretty easily. Let's say, like, Alakazam, let's say your Chansey's paralyzed, like, it gets, like, full paralysis, and also gets a special drop. You can easily switch into Skarmory, take the Psychic, then immediately go back into Chansey, while not having to go into something else that might take a lot of damage from the Psychic. Skarmory, I just think these three work very well together. I think defensively, like the Steel typing in the 140 defense really brings it all together, and ends up by creating something that you couldn't really replicate in usual Gen 1 OU. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it would be good. It definitely wouldn't be more popular than the big three, not by a long shot. Although I do feel like this could help you with more, I think this can help a lot with, like, certain Pokemon. Like, I think Sword Dance Pokemon, like, Pinsir, Kingor, and Sandslash, I think they would really appreciate having Pokemon like this. Because it can give you a chance to more, like, that have a safe time setting up easier. Because you can pivot into something, and if, like, let's say it doesn't go to plan, you can easily switch into whatever could tank, whatever's in front of you the most. Or with these three, you, like, exhaust a lot of the opponent's resources. You get a really good opening to take out one of those guys, you get a Sword Stance, and then go to town. Like, I might be over-optimistic here, but I think this can work. We'll start getting into the replays. Starting off with the boy Tauros. Body Slam, like, even with a crit, it's just nothing. So, like, yeah, that's also another problem. Like, Drill Peck doesn't do much either. And a critical Blizzard is like half your health. So, I'm assuming regular would just take like a fourth, which I guess that's doable. But also Tauros crits a lot, so it's just not going to be in your favor for the most part. Meanwhile, with Skarmory against like Snorlax, obviously against like a physical Snorlax with Body Slam, Higher Beam Wave, and Self-Destruct, you just eat it very, very easily. But Amnesia Wax is a huge problem. And here's an example where like Toxic can be sort of useful, because it's very annoying. And also I can always make it to where the opponent has to rest or switch out, which could give your Skarmory an extra turn where they're asleep and vulnerable. And there's not much Skarmory can really do after that. Ice Beam is just a really easy 3-hit KO, really. I kind of forgot about that. But yeah, it's kind of boring. It definitely is. It's not the most exciting Pokemon to use, but this is the best Skarmory can do. But you know what? I've seen a lot of other losers on this show, and Skarmory, it could be a lot worse. Like, Calyrex would die to, like, Calyrex Shadow specifically die in order to have, like, what Skarmory can have here. Because at least it's doing something. At least it's wasting power points, forcing the Snorlax to rest. But looking back at it, I probably could have gone away with another Amnesia on the Snorlax, which could make it easily 2-hit KO the Snorlax. Or 2-hit KO the Skarmory, I mean. I'm not sure why I didn't go for that. I guess I kind of had tunnel vision. I sometimes do have tunnel vision while making these replays, but it doesn't really matter. The point is, Skarmory is, for Pokemon that has, like, pretty good special right now, it's surprisingly holding its own. And it's also eating up a lot of, those power points. Which, that's another thing Skarmory can do pretty well. Just waste the opponent's power points. Especially for Blizzards, you can definitely eat a lot of those. But, yeah, Freeze is a thing. Which, it's pretty good. I felt like going for Body Slam, not sure why. But, yeah. I guess this would be a could go either way. Not just depending on the set, but even for Amnesialax. Although, I think I didn't play optimally there, so against Amnesialax specifically, it could just be a bad matchup no matter what. And against Bolt Beam Chansey, it's pretty unwinnable. I don't think that surprises anybody. You have high special, Thunderbolt hits very hard, and yeah, it ain't gonna save you, bud. Roost would probably save you by wasting power points, but you don't have Roost. So yeah, too bad, so sad. Now, against a Chansey that doesn't have, Thunderbolt, it's a much different story. Because you have Toxicate, which you wouldn't want to do. You would rather paralyze or put it to sleep. But in that situation, you kind of have to force Chansey to, switch out. And somehow that Caterpie survived the Drill Peck. And that was... Yeah, look at that. Those are like... That was 2 crits in a row. That Caterpie put in work. Like, GG to the Caterpie. But yeah, going back to the battle. Drill Peck doesn't really do that much. Or 30%, that's like good. But sort of similar to what that other one did, which... What Pokemon did I go over where it was... Oh, no, not poison, but for Mega Charizard Y, I went over how the burn chip is actually pretty useful. Especially for Pokemon like Chansey, where they would just like spam Soft Boil. It gives a little bit of chip. However, the issue here is that Skarmory can't actually do enough damage to take advantage of it. So even with the chip and with you hitting a lot of Drill Pecks, inevitably Chansey will be able to go back up to full. So it's not like Mega Charizard Y and its Slash, where it can put enough damage where Chansey's so threatened. And with that though, it's still not the worst. Because, like, Chansey does about as much as your Drill Pecks do with both Ice Beam and Seismic Toss. Meaning that you can wake up in time for rest and, not worry about the, getting taken out. Although it's so very annoying and you're so very scared of being frozen. Although, either way, I guess you did put in work. You poisoned the Chansey, which isn't very desirable. But I think a poison Chansey is slightly better than a paralyzed Chansey, because at least like some damage is being done. And yeah, sometimes when you're paralyzed you get some free turns because they can't move, but I don't know, at least here like Soft Ball becomes ever so slightly less effective. But I think that's just me being optimistic. It's not that good. Granted, if they don't have any other Pokemon, Toxic becomes great, but that's not really gonna happen. But as you can see here, both of them are pretty even. Like, they don't really have what it takes to kill each other. Except for if you want to go full out. And since Skarmory has an agility, it probably could have gone for that from the beginning anyways. But yeah, without Thunderbolt, it's like really even. Although they'd rather be friends. Meanwhile, with Alakazam, like, he can paralyze you. And then, like, it does a fourth. But you can get crits, you can also get special drops. So it's not that great for Skarmory. You three hit it with, Drill Peck, but the Alakazam has, like, Recover and Thunder Wave as well. So it's just never gonna be in your favor. Sooner or later, the Alakazam is gonna win. And then against Cloyster, you guys share a speed tie, but that does not matter, because I'm gonna say Cloyster is unwinnable. Granted, you can, if you're lucky, you can get an agility off. But even if you get an agility off, or you get a toxic off, you just die to clamp. There's just not much you can do. It's not worth it at all. So yeah, I feel bad. And I wish this could be better, but it's not. There's not much you can really do there. Meanwhile, against Executor, yeah, Drill Peck does like a 3-hit KO. If they miss, yeah, they probably don't want to risk it. Because even like if you're asleep, it's still a 4-hit KO on the Psychic. Which, that's actually really impressive. Considering how hard Executor really hits. But yeah, as you see there, Skarmory took it out pretty easily. But you're not always that lucky with sleep. So what would happen if, you know, like you didn't go for Drill Peck? This is actually another case where I think Toxic could be very useful. Because you use it, and then they put you to sleep, and you don't wake up. But at least some chip damage is being done. So Executor isn't like just being allowed to do whatever it wants. Granted, they probably would switch here if they were able to. But even then, like, they're switching, so you still have at least one turn where you're not doing anything. And given what I was talking about earlier with, I think, Skarmory being really good on teams with Chansey and Rhydon, being a really good defensive pivot, even in those cases, like right now, even if it is a sweep, it doesn't really matter. Because you're not hurting the opponent much anyways, you're just taking hits. So yeah, Executor doesn't really have much to do against Skarmory, and even sleep isn't very that, like, threatening. So that's actually like probably the best matchup Skarmory has. Other than like, you know, like non-amnesia Snorlax. Jinx, however, is another unwinnable one. You have nothing. And I did make replays for it, but Swelbro, Gengar, and Jolteon are also unwinnable. But I think about all three of those, it should be pretty self-explanatory. Meanwhile, I believe this one's called be Starmie. I don't know why it took so long to load that time, but... Oh, wait, no. I forgot I did one for Rhydon. Sorry. Rhydon... Like, Rock Slide doesn't do that much. And in this replay, Rhydon unfortunately missed the water Rock Slides, which really sucks. And yeah, Rhydon would switch here. But Poison is, I would argue, is sort of good anyways. You're not paralyzing the Rhydon. And yeah, you're gonna die to an Ice move, so you're not gonna freeze it. So maybe putting it to sleep would be good. But even to sleep, its like main purpose of like just shutting down, you know, Zapdos, it's gonna do either way, sleep or not. So Poison is actually not that bad here. And theoretically, you could win either way, even without, you know, Toxic. But I don't want to even think about how long that would actually take. Okay, this is the Starmie replay. Actually, now I think about it, Rhydon's probably a better matchup than Eggy. But, you know, it's like basically the same thing, where there's just not much they can really do to Skarmory. Now, with Starmie, it doesn't... Now, with... I believe with Blizzard, it's actually a 3-hit KO, which surprised me. I assumed it would have been a 2-hit KO, but it's not. So... Like, good for Skarmory. Like, Thunderbolt on Starmie is still pretty popular. And I would imagine that Surf would just do a lot of good, consistent damage, too. So, for Skarmory, it just... It can't cook. It can't cook in front of Starmie. Sorry, Skarmory, there's nothing to do there. Now, for this last replay, instead of just showing you Skarmory getting one-shot by Zapdos, I wanted to show what I meant about just how good this guy can be, you know, teamed up with Rhydon and Chansey. So let's put this on fast, and let's just take a look at this, shall we? Or let's do this way instead. Yeah. Awesome, funny enough, another Caterpie. Even with Paralyze, Caterpie can take 3 body slams from Rhydon, who has 130 freaking attack. That is insane. But yeah, as you can see there, Skarmory takes the Drill Peck really well. Like, Rhydon just completely shuts down, you know, like Thunderbolts. And then, like, you know, you just get a lot of free opportunities when you have this much defensive power. Because you just do not have many, you know, chances to just, you know, go in and just, you know, like, you know, do a lot of damage. Even against a Tauros. Tauros who has, like, he has, you know, like, decent, you know, like, physical special coverage with Blizzard. But, yeah, like, he does not make, he doesn't have that many, blitzes to begin with. So he doesn't have many chances. So, like, what happens when Swords Out is all out Blizzards? Like, Rhydon still doesn't like Earthquake, but Skarmory he easily can just take that. It becomes a free matchup. So, I don't really have much else to say here, unfortunately. It's, you get the idea just from seeing this replay. And I could have ended it, but I kind of wanted to, like, play this out to the very end. So, before actually doing anything, I just want you to comment right now. What do you think this 4th Pokemon is? Because I wanted to have a, at least one more, just so that, like, an offensive Pokemon. So, yeah, before it's too late, comment down what you think the 4th Pokemon is. And if you've already gotten to the point in the video where you know what it is, comment down what you thought it was gonna be. And, yeah, I don't have much else to say. I think I picked a good selection of good offensive Pokemon. Alakazam, Chansey, and Zapdos. Yeah, I just don't have much else. I guess I'll just say that, like, right now, watch time's doing pretty good. My watch time is, over, like, 2,800 watch time hours. And my, subscriber count, I believe, is at 426. So, yeah, it's getting really close. Which, that makes me very happy. And, yeah, there it is, Pinsir. Did not expect the Critical Psychic to one-shot it. That is unfortunate. So, yeah. For those of you who thought Pinsir for whatever reason, good job. Not sure how you would have guessed it. Maybe with me talking about Sword Stance users before, you thought it would have been one of the 3 I talked about. Pinsir, Sandslash, and Kingler. But I assume you probably would have assumed it was one of the others, if I'm being honest. I'm out of stuff to talk about again. Thank you for watching the video. I guess I'll just say it right now. Like, also, here's another example. See how I started to go wrong? See how, like, that was a crit and there was a special drop? Like, again, like, if it was just Skarmory, or not Skarmory, if it's just Rhydon and Chansey, something like that happened, there's not much you can really do. Because, like, yeah, like, what do you do in that situation? Switching the Rhydon? You can't, really. So, unfortunately, Skarmory did have to take the, the hit there. But because of Skarmory being able to do that, it gave Chansey a chance to, get rid of that special drop and heal. It would have died either way. So yeah, so Chansey is quite grateful for the Chansey it was given. That was a very bad pun, I know. I'm sorry. But yeah, see how vital Skarmory was there? Even though it got sacked, it gave Chansey the ability to just, beat Alakazam, because it's almost out of Psychics. And yes, I do see the lag there. Oh no. But I think I made my point. I think I made my point now about just how good, just how good, these 3 would be. Because, like, instead of Pinsir, imagine if it's just, like, any other Pokemon, And now you just have Rhydon who can just easily clean it up. So, yeah, Skarmory, like, even though he can't hurt anyone, really, I think he has a very good place in the meta. So I don't think he would be borderline or even underused. Here's the tier list. Waiting for it to load. Still waiting. Okay, there we go. And yeah, that is a surprisingly high amount of Pokemon and unwinnable. If this was any other Pokemon, I would say, yeah, these matches are not great. It would not be able to make it an OU. But that's not the point of Skarmory. The point of Skarmory isn't to be a huge offensive threat. It's just to tank attacks and, help support its teammates. Which I think it would do. So, you know what? Let's put Chansey in great matchups. Because, like, when I mean great matchups, I don't mean who they would fight against. Like, I mean friendship. Like, those 3 would be amazing together. Maybe the real defensive pivots were the friends we made along the way. And yes, I know that was even worse than the last joke I made. Yeah. I'm just gonna end the video here before I'm making this even worse for myself. What videos would you like to see next? What do you think about Skarmory? Do you think it would be OU? Or do you think it just wouldn't be able to handle it? Thank you all for watching. My name is Groundback, and I look forward to hearing from you.